Welcome, welcome, welcome. How is it going? Hello, Diablo. Good to see you here. Oh boy, it is October 16th. This is a RambleCast, and I'm your host, Cody Toombs. Corbin will not be joining us today because, insert reason here, I swear it's not a felony. Anyway, so you see what's happening here. You know, we got news. We got news today. Yes. So, since Corbin, by the way, is probably going to be taking every other week off, this seems to be a new part of his plan. I am probably going to try to turn news into a regular segment. Because why not? Anyway, so what do we have happening? Oh boy, we have some news today. So we're gonna start off with Google. Google is partnering with Commonwealth Fusion Systems to accelerate the development of new technology that will be used to bring us closer to clean and safe fusion energy. Google aims to simulate the necessary environment and, through the use of AI, create real-time controls that can manage superheated plasma in the real world using high-power magnets. Once the goal is achieved, Google can finally evolve into its final form its founders had always intended, a utility company. In device news, Samsung may have canceled the Galaxy S26 Edge. Reports suggest the device is no longer in development despite its predecessor having only been in the market for 5 months. Rumors have long indicated that the S25 Edge sales numbers had been substantially underperforming. Customer dissatisfaction over the ultra-thin smartphone was often attributed to low battery life, lack of hardware features and specs, and a higher price. When asked what phone those customers were considering as a potential replacement, they all responded in unison that they'll be trying the iPhone Air next. And finally, Microsoft is working to redesign Windows around the use of voice and vision, centering its hopes on Copilot, the branding for its AI-powered tools. Microsoft wants users to speak to their computers using the new "Hey Copilot" activation phrase, which will wake the system and begin listening for instructions. Copilot will then attempt to carry out actions through its agentic features, so users aren't required to do everything manually. The feature sounded a lot like something out of Star Trek, but when asked for comment, the late Gene Roddenberry rose from his grave, scoffed, and said, "Yeah, it does sound like that, but my shit worked." Thank you. That's been the news. Oh, yeah. How do you not make fun of Microsoft? I mean, come on. Oh, but it has been one of those weeks. Oh boy. Now, obviously there has. Did I tie this too tight? No, not quite. So we're gonna. There we go. And this is, I'm not kidding, going to just hang by the thread. Okay, so we're just going to, we're just gonna do that now. Cool. We're now casual, Cody. How is okay? Somehow I managed to get my shirt wound up in my shirt. All right. So, what do we actually have as our topics for today? Do I? Oh, wow, that is going to look really weird like that. Okay, we're just gonna nudge that over a bit. Okay. So, today is, look, Apple just kind of dominated the news cycle. Look, if I wasn't talking about Apple, it was gonna be so much stuff about, what's it called? OpenAI. Like, that was pretty much the other big news maker this week, and I can't do it. I can't. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Apple, but even Apple didn't want to talk about Apple this week. Instead of holding an event, and bear in mind, they announced a whole new chipset, or major chipset update, and they announced 3 major products, all of which have the word Pro in the name. And yet they decided not to hold an event for this. Instead, oh yeah, Sam would love news. Sam, sorry buddy, but if you'd like to sponsor, reach out. We can work something out. In the meantime, yeah, which by the way, also take this as a note. I'm opting out of Sora. So yeah, don't be scraping these videos, bud. Again, if you'd like to change that, checks can be made out to, well, you can contact me. Anyway, but no, so Apple's events, or Apple chose not to hold any sort of event for the launch of the M5, the new Vision Pro, the new iPad Pro, and the new MacBook Pro. Yes, seriously, they skipped having any sort of announcement for these things and decided instead to just leave it up to blog post. I honestly, I'm kind of blown away. This feels like the wrong Apple. I mean, it's just, this isn't what I expect from Apple in any way, shape, or form. I really thought they would be holding an event. I mean, this is middle of October. They have 3 Pro devices, ostensibly, that are brand new, but nope, we're just not we're not having it. But yeah, so the truth of the matter is, when you read through the blog post, you start to really see why there was no announcement, because what you see on screen right now, that was it. That's really it. It's the M5. This is, of course, the major update over the M4. It is Apple Silicon at its latest generation. And the truth of the matter is, this was the only thing that actually got updated, or in any appreciable form. So, what does the M5 bring? Well, I mean, higher specs. That's the summary. It brings higher specs. They're using 3 nanometer, a 3 nanometer process to manufacture the chip. It is, let's see. It is, truthfully, it's not really featuring much in the way of CPU advancement. There certainly is. It is faster. But the major advancement here is pretty much the GPU and neural engine. So GPU, they're hyping up specifically the 10-core model, which I believe they also have a 12-core or 14-core? I forget which, but that should be the higher-end model. Regardless, this is what they're talking about quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, that's it. Like, they're claiming specifically, and I think this is, let's see, was it this post that hypes it up? No. Okay, we'll talk about it in a bit with, I believe, the MacBook Pro. But yeah, basically they're hyping up the fact that it is considerably faster. They say up to 2.5 times faster performance than the M1, which, yeah, I would hope so. And it's 30% faster than their most recent, the M4. So these are improvements, but they are definitely in line with sort of generational improvements. This is the iterative update that everyone knew was eventually going to come, and here we are. When your claim to fame is, yeah, we're 30% faster than last year's model, well, okay, that's an improvement. But we're no longer seeing like full 100% or higher improvements. We're seeing the more yearly upgrade cycle playing out. Um, let's see. So some of the things that they're highlighting is basically that this is going to perform better in the 120 hertz range. It actually being able to play games or display other more demanding graphics in 120 hertz. This chip is also, did they mention it here? Or is it only with the iPad? But this chip is capable of basically outputting to external displays also at 120 hertz with a low latency mode. Let's see. They again mentioned the neural engine. Again, there is surprisingly little to say here outside of it's faster. So that's kind of the whole story. I mean, truthfully, it really is. And you'll notice there aren't a lot of headline or like subheadings here. They've highlight that they've enhanced the memory, which basically is just promising higher bandwidth with the unified memory model. Let's see. They mention that these cap out at 32 gigs of memory, which I don't think is entirely accurate. It's probably 32 gigs per package. But when you start packaging for higher versions of the M series chips, so let's say the Pro, Max, and Ultra chips, when they package obviously multiple chips inside of each one, or well, multiple cores, whatever. Anyway, as they're packaging more chips together, that obviously that maximum memory increases. So yeah, that is the M5. Zero question, this is obviously going to be a really spectacular chip. As the higher end models do come out, they're obviously also going to bring with them higher specs, more memory, the whole nine, and that's excellent. No criticism about the chip. I'm sure it's great. Now we have to get to the products. And let's start with the headliner, the one that everyone's been talking about for pretty good reason. The Apple Vision Pro. Oh boy. The Apple Vision Pro. Oh my God. Apple, what are you thinking? Okay, so obviously the original Vision Pro did not launch with necessarily the most optimistic response. People were understandably critical. I think that's a given. And basically the Vision Pro looks good. It looks interesting, and it came in with some attractive features and qualities. But it didn't deliver on the few things that people really expected it to have. For example, of course, some sort of quote-unquote killer app, something that people would look at and say, wow, that's the thing I really want. It also didn't come in with games. Not really. I mean, technically it had iPad games, and there were a few things that were developed for the Vision Pro, but they didn't really solve that one key crucial issue, which is they didn't really give it a proper SDK for building games. And no such thing has been built yet, to my knowledge. And even the existing game engines, to my knowledge, do not have a way to really properly build anything resembling like fully immersive environments that aren't sort of just drawn very manually. So this brings us to the new Vision Pro. Now, the biggest enhancement is that, as I recall, and actually, original Vision Pro specs, I believe the original Vision Pro had an M2. Yes. So, and an R1 chip, which apparently was responsible for the spatial processing. So, the new Vision Pro, they are leaping up to the M5, which, okay, that kind of makes some sense. They're, putting the original Vision Pro on an old chip was a little bit odd, but I think they did that because they probably had been developing it all that time with that chip in mind, and didn't want to pull the old chip just for the sake of putting the latest hardware in. This time, not the issue. They're putting in an M5, so it is actually a fully up-to-date hardware set. And to that I say, yeah, good choice. There's no... I can only picture what would have happened if they put in like an M3 or an M4. People would have kind of ripped into them. And rightfully so. I think putting the M2 into the original iPad, into the original Vision Pro, that was a poor choice. It did look bad. It looked weird sending out something that just had outdated hardware, already well outdated hardware. But yeah, so here we are. What does the new Vision Pro bring? Well, again, you skim down through this, and the truth of the matter is the original Vision Pro basically just brings updated specs. It is basically just, hey, it's the same thing, but now it's got an M5 in it. So they are basically committing to, let's see, where is it? Yeah, so higher refresh rate, which is now up to 120 hertz. Honestly, I didn't realize it was below that. I thought part of the point of the Vision Pro was that it was already hitting somewhere around 120 hertz. So, not loving that wasn't already a thing. Which we're going to be commenting on that a little bit more in a second. Let's see. Was there anything else in there? I know there was something else. Let's see. They're promising that the neural engine is going to run 50% faster for a lot of system-related things, like basically performing transitions on photos or transformative properties on photos. It's going to be able to do more things with replicating your face. It has, let's see. I guess it's probably going to load faster. Like this is the kind of stuff that they're basically promising is, hey, it does stuff faster. The other big change, I believe this is the only other one, is apparently they have updated the knit band that goes around the head. So it will be more comfortable. Cool. Exciting. And then, oh, and this might be interesting. Powerful spatial experiences. They're talking a little bit about basically how much more they're supposedly going to be able to bring. None of this is... It's not really clear what this is going to be, but it seems like they at least have a little bit more vision for what this product is supposed to be. But it's still sort of hand-wavy. And it's still basically promising things that they haven't shown to anybody. Which I feel inclined to point out. Okay, that's not what I was going to bring up. I thought I would have sworn. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Okay. I thought I'd seen something in this blog post, but I feel like pointing out that most of the pictures here don't really indicate a whole lot of features or interests that we didn't already have. Like, that's to me kind of the problem. What are they adding? I don't know. Basically this sounds like it's still just a faster Vision Pro. And that does kind of lead into what I think is still the problem. New apps, content, and games to explore. This section I thought was hilarious. Quote, there are over 1 million apps available for Vision Pro, or Apple Vision Pro, including more than 3,000 apps built for Vision OS. Okay, let's break this down a little bit. Over 1 million apps? Yeah, they're called iPad apps and iPhone apps. Um, that's that's basically the same number you already had. Like, there's not a higher count here. um, it's it's just that you already had a million apps in the App Store that were downloadable to Vision OS, so nothing changed. Now the 3,000 apps built for Vision OS, in many cases, it is a fact. In many of those cases, a lot of those apps were actually basically little more than recompiled under the uh, under that under the Vision Pro build target. That's pretty much it. That's the difference. Like most of them were tested in a simulator. It turns out that they function okay, so the developer just basically built that build target and shipped it. And some of these are really no more than demo apps. Bear that in mind. A good chunk of that 3,000 is like really lightweight stuff, or it's widgets and things like that. It's not a lot of stuff that's really purpose built for Vision OS. If you watch any YouTubers like going over what they have in the store, it's bleak. But this paragraph goes on, and I think it's very telling. Users can design their dream home with Home by Me and Lowe's Style Studio. They can outfit their closet with Balenciaga and browse stunning artwork with Christie's Select and Art Authority Museum. They can explore extraordinary locations around the world with Epic Earth and Explore POV, transform their physical space into a planetarium with Space Vision, or travel back in time with D-Day, the camera's soldier, which that just feels cringy, but we'll leave that alone. This is a whole lot of stuff which sounds okay, but a lot of it was also the same things that we saw in like various other AR VR environments. They're not really new and unique to Vision Pro, and a lot of them aren't really even adding anything that you couldn't already do with like an iPhone. In fact, stuff like the Balenciaga features and things like outfitting your home, these are all things that already existed for iPhone. The AR features in iPhone literally were this. They may have just been updated to technically be part of Vision OS. So again, we're kind of just not seeing that killer app. So kind of confusing that's still the state of things. I don't know how they expect to get developers on board when people aren't interested in jumping into the Vision Pro, because Apple really needs to deliver their own killer app here, I think, to get people to want to buy this. Also, find a way to sell them for cheaper. And we'll come back to that momentarily. All right, so before I continue, I want to point out, not too long ago, this is now a few months back, but I know a developer who works on a reasonably well-known iPhone app. I'm not going to discuss who it is. I won't out them because I believe they weren't supposed to share this. But they told me that Apple had reached out to them and basically said, hey, we'd really like for you to bring your app to Vision OS. Their response was a pretty simple and straightforward, I'd consider it, but I need to know, how many have you actually sold? How many people have actually bought this? Because if my app doesn't have enough users, I'm going to make no money off of this. And it also my app is somewhat reliant on having a user base. Apple, to put it simply, just refused to respond. They I guess continued to push for the developer to consider the platform, but refused to give any sort of sales figures. And well, I think you can probably assume pretty safely what the developer chose to do. I'm not going to say more at risk of outing who it would be, but suffice to say, yeah, this has become the problem, and Apple knows that they're not doing well enough with sales numbers to attract developers. And again, it's about the, well, a big part of this is again about the price. So let's see. They go on to say that Apple Vision Pro remains the ultimate entertainment device. With the new Vision Pro, users can experience concerts like never before, blah, 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 blah. I'm not doubting any of this. I bet it's really cool. But watching a concert in 3D, basically, you could have done that with a 3D TV. I don't think the Vision Pro is going to be adding a whole lot to that experience. Wait, is this supposed... Oh, that is Metallica. Wow. Huh. Good for him. He doesn't look half as bad as the other bandmates. Anyway. So, I mean, again, I'm sure this is really cool. I'm sure the hardware is great, but for what it can do right now, it's still not a very compelling story. They highlight that gaming on the Vision Pro is next level with its ultra high resolution displays, advanced spatial audio system, low latency, and responsive controls across a variety of input methods, including popular game controllers like Sony DualSense, which now supports multi-device pairing. Yeah. So this is their example. I'm going to play that again. This is their example. A guy playing, I guess, is this technically ping pong? Pickleball? I don't know. This is pickleball, isn't it? I'm sorry, but okay. I mean, look, several years ago, when I was at a Google event, I played ping pong using a what was it called? Dream something? Android Dream. I can't think of the name of it now. Anyway, I played ping pong with a Google developer using a phone. Somehow I woke up everything with that. That was weird. Okay. All of my phones woke up to that part I just said. That's amazing. Daydream. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, I could play ping pong with somebody back then with my phone just mounted in front of my face. Why is, like, this isn't special, Apple? I'm sorry, but this just isn't special. Give us something better than this. So yeah, I'm not impressed or particularly thrilled with that example. I'm a little blown away that they didn't do something more than a ping pong example in their blog post. Let's see. So they go on to list some other stuff, which very notably, they're already, like this paragraph, players will be able to enjoy iPad games, and it goes on to list stuff. They're already, like, that's it. That's it. They didn't have any game story to explore other than to say, yeah, you can use controllers, and oh, by the way, here's a ping pong game. That's what they had to show off. Everything after that, it's regular iPad games. Why? How how does that not look terrible? I'm sorry, but Apple, you've screwed up. they Apple, my genuine advice at this stage, what you need to do is approach a game company, a major game company, doesn't matter who, just a major game company. You don't have to go after even a major game, but it has to be a game that exists. Pay the development team to build a Vision Pro version of that game. That's it. Pay the full cost. And not only the full cost to develop it, or rather port it to Vision Pro, but let them keep all the profits. They can sell the game, they're guaranteed profit. That's it. And it needs to be a fun game. It needs to be something that will be interesting on Vision Pro. That's all you have to do. Get at least one thing out there so you can show it off. That's it. You just have to be able to show it off. I think they're really making massive mistakes here. Anyway. It goes on to highlight, obviously, all the existing features that they've already had, like extending your Mac display with virtual displays. You can obviously adjust various things in certain apps. All of it sounds nice, but it's the same stuff we've already had. So that's about it. And then we get down to the product and the environment section, which, if you've looked at these blog posts, is the closing section for all of them. Now, again, the Vision Pro is a whopping $3,500. Or for those that want to nitpick, $3,499 in the US. And they, of course, have different storage capacities. They are also going to be opening up pre-orders for Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Japan, the United Arab Emirates, the UK, and again, the US. And apparently they will be available for pre-order in China, or mainland China, and Singapore on Friday, October 17th. So tomorrow. Actually, that's today. Anyway. So good, I guess. I mean, they're expanding distribution, so that's kind of promising. Oh, and I see they also mentioned South Korea and Taiwan later. So, okay. More places. I think that's about it. And then, of course, they list various accessories and other products. It is, exactly, you said it perfectly. It's just too damn expensive. Would Killed by Apple ever be a thing? Nice. But yeah, this is just too expensive. Simple as that. It looks like a neat product. I think most people would at least like to try it, if not own one. But at the cost of $3,500, the simple fact is it's too expensive. Most people can't afford this or don't want to afford this. And even if you can, it doesn't offer that much. I mean, set aside that it's kind of annoying to have to carry around a battery that's hanging off of a cable that's hanging from your head. You know, don't overthink the various limitations and weaknesses. Those are all fine. The thing that's just such a struggle here is there's just so little to do with the Vision Pro. It's still not really taking advantage of all that great hardware, and otherwise it's basically just an iPad. And that's kind of all it has been, is just an iPad that sits in front of your face. And I mean, that's cool in its own ways. I'm not mad at that, but I also just don't see this as a thing that's going to attract or appeal enough customers until they figure out some good way to make use of the software. And the fact that it's still not really compatible with major game platforms, or game development frameworks like Unreal, or rather there's no good way to build a game using Unreal. I just don't see how this is supposed to succeed. They need to deliver more. There have to be more answers for who is going to actually get use out of this, because if your answer right now is you can wear it around your house and imagine what different furniture is going to look like, you haven't sold me. You haven't sold what I don't think this sells to anybody. Not really. So nice try, but we're not there. But on the subject of price, it gets worse. As Mac Rumors points out, oh boy, things are rough if you bought the original M2 based Vision Pro. As it turns out, you can't trade it in. Apple will not take trade-ins of the original Vision Pro. This is rough. So credit to Mac Rumors on the theory, and I tend to agree. The theory here is it's very likely that this is just a sign that Apple's trade-in partners simply aren't interested in it. They don't want to accept the M2 based Vision Pro, likely because resale is terrible on this thing. People were returning them in mass after they bought them, made YouTube videos, and were done with them. Apple's attempts to sell the original M2 were not particularly shiny, and now their trade-in partners are looking at this, basically saying, "Hey, we don't think we can sell these units." At least that's my theory. I don't think they can. Realistically, like, who are they going to sell them to? Unless the price is substantially reduced. Consider for a second how much, as a typical person, how much do you feel you'd be willing to spend in order to get the original M2 based Vision Pro? I think a lot of people would look at it and maybe you could convince them if the price was as low as, let's say, $1,000. Again, bearing in mind, it would be a used thing that sits on your face. And even if they refurbish it completely by replacing all the outer bits that would, in fact, contact your face, the practical reality is it's also a 3-year-old chip. It is also something that Apple has now effectively replaced with considerably better hardware. And for anyone who's not in a rush to get a Vision Pro, which, as a side note, there is one group that I think will want these, and that's developers. I think any developer who is wanting to get a Vision Pro, but not wanting to spend the outrageous $3,500 price tag for it, they very likely will look at the M2, used M2s, and think, yep, that's worth it. Oh yeah, you're right. These were also somewhat custom fit. So yeah, that's a little rough for... Were they custom fit? I remember that being a thing, but I don't know how that really works. Anyway, I mean, point remains. Like, how, outside of developers that want to make apps, who wants to buy the 3-year-old chip on hardware that Apple is not really taking the effort to really push forward? I mean, they're selling new hardware, but they didn't solve the biggest problem, which is software. I'm sure that they're working on stuff. I'm sure they're trying to build more interesting things, but they haven't solved that one key, crucial thing. Where's the software that answers the big questions here? How do they get this into a place where people actually will want this? And right now, I don't see an answer to that. Not a good one, at least. And it occurred to me that the chat was just kind of hovering in this bad spot, so it looked weird on screen. So I just moved over the window. Now I'm somewhat cut off by it, but I think that's a little more okay. So, yeah. Funny enough, though, this just means you cannot trade in an original Vision Pro, which, sorry to those people. And as others have pointed out, the smart move is probably, if you do want to get rid of it and get the new one, or just get rid of the old one, you're probably better off trying to resell it on like Swappa or eBay or any other place. Just it's practical truth. You're better off trying to sell it yourself than trying to trade it in anyway. Let's see. You're guessing they made it easy to be removed and changed for another person, but they made people fit them at the store. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I never heard much about the process of getting one, so yeah, I didn't think too much about it, but I feel like I remember with Google Glass, they made people fit them at the store or at locations. The funny thing is, as far as I can tell, none of them changed. None of them were ever different, and I certainly didn't get fitted, and I got a Google Glass and it worked just fine. So I'm not really sure if there was ever anything to that, or if Google just wanted people to have to sit there and basically talk to somebody about how to use glass before they were just sent away with it. Perhaps I'm wrong. I don't know. So moving on to the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro, again, we find ourselves in exactly the same situation. It's now the iPad Pro with the M5 chip. That's it. You almost could walk away with that as the single note for this entire announcement. So let's see. They're highlighting things like Wi-Fi 7. Let's see. You're saying that the fitting could also have to do with maximizing the light seal. I'm sure it does. Because you would want to get the right size pad on somebody's face. And if someone has a really large face versus someone who has a really tiny face, obviously you would need different... I almost want to call them face cups instead of like face pads, but whatever. Yeah, you'd certainly want that to be sized to the person who's going to be using it, but I don't know. It feels like that's something that when someone's ordering, you just instruct them like, here, use a ruler or use your iPhone with AR features turned on to measure your face. And once it's done that, you just tell us what it says and we'll give you the correct thing. Anyway, let's see. So the new iPad, of course, they are highlighting the exact same things. So basically they're talking about the next generation GPU and neural accelerator. They are, of course, talking about the new iPad Pro delivers up to 3.5 times the AI performance of the iPad Pro with an M4 chip, and 5.6 times faster than iPad Pro with the M1. Honestly, I'm surprised that it's not a much higher number there, but okay, that's a thing. Better buy than the Vision Pro. It absolutely is. Let's see. They are talking about Wi-Fi 7. I think I mentioned that earlier. Let's see. 50% faster cellular data. Again, this is kind of a blah, blah, blah. It's the same things, but basically, hey, we upgraded a number or moved one number forward in whatever spec. Let's see. The next big leap forward with AI, which, again, exactly the same stuff that they already had. It's just, hey, we swear it happens faster. Next level performance. Trying to remember, because I read through all of these and there were specific parts that I thought, oh, I should talk about this, and now I don't remember which parts those were. Up to 6 times faster video transcode performance in Final Cut Pro when compared to the iPad Pro with M1, which, okay, that is actually a pretty meaningful difference. A little less impressive when you're saying that it's up to 20% faster than the iPad Pro with M4. Because to say it's up to 1.2 times faster, no, that just means it's 20% faster. So let's see. Faster upscaling, faster AI image generation, blah blah blah. Okay, so yeah, it's the same stuff. Faster memory bandwidth and storage for more seamless multitasking. This, of course, was another thing that I mentioned in the discussion about the chip itself. Basically, yay, they upgraded the memory bandwidth, and I will give it the more seamless multitasking. That actually is the one thing that they notably improved for the CPU side. So that's good. I mean, again, the chip is a good upgrade. I don't doubt that for a second. It's just, exactly what you expect it to be. Let's see, the C1X and N1 chips are coming to the iPad. These, of course, are their wireless chips for cellular, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, etc., etc. So, great. These are, again, good upgrades. Unrivaled design to display. This, I believe, was completely the same. Skimming to make sure I didn't miss something, but I'm pretty sure this was identical to the previous generation. So, good that they're advertising it, I guess, but that's it. Here we go. This is what I referenced before. The new iPad Pro adds the ability to drive external displays at up to 120 hertz. I believe previously, I want to say it was 90. I might have that wrong, or maybe it was even 60, but I want to say it was 90. And for users with a 120 hertz external display, iPad Pro also brings new support for adaptive sync, which provides the lowest possible latency and external display performance. That's an actual feature enhancement. Good for them. It's not going to be super special, but it's an improvement. So cool. I'm not opposed to this. So let's see. All of these other things this is all iOS 26 or iPadOS 26, however you want to frame it. Then they go into the accessories. Nothing has changed here. And then back to the environment discussion, as always. So the cheapest version is going to start at $1,000, and it goes up by a couple hundred for a cellular model, which, yikes, that seems too much for just adding cellular. And then it goes up to $1,300 for the 13-inch, and you again have to add $200 for the cellular model, which, again, WTF, guys, it's too much. Blah blah blah, and the rest of this is all pretty standard stuff. So I mean, it's an upgrade. That's kind of the story. It's an upgrade. I'm not going to say more about it than that. And then finally, we have the MacBook Pro that's not a MacBook Pro. Just buy a MacBook Pro? Yes, but not this one. Okay. So, oh boy. I don't want to beat up on this laptop, but I have to. Okay, so this is the 14-inch MacBook Pro. It has also been updated with the M5 chip, but it's worth noting this is not like the other MacBook Pros. This is the one that is basically more like a MacBook, but with more ports. That's pretty much the story on this guy. So it does not have active cooling, or at least I don't think this one has active cooling. Now that I said that, maybe I'm wrong on that. Whatever the case, this is the one that's basically the downgraded version of a MacBook Pro, and it doesn't have the Pro, Max, or Ultra chip in it. This is the baseline M5. Yeah, it's an Air in disguise. It's a large MacBook Air. So, again, it has the same upgrades because it's just about the M5. Let's see. So again, faster graphics, faster CPU, better multitasking, supposedly. Their one notable thing is the battery life is now up to 24 hours, which, cheers. That's not bad. It's not bad at all. Let's see. So, next big leap in AI for the Mac. Look, I'm not even going to repeat it. You know, it's the same damn. It's what every other thing with the M5 has. Next level performance with the M5. Again, yep. Yeah, they almost could have copy pasted everything, except for the fact that they're highlighting things like the new 14-inch MacBook Pro is great for data analysts querying databases in Python, and for querying databases in Python. Look, I know what that's meant to say, and technically that is not grammatically incorrect, but it is also funny because it kind of sounds like someone wrote this without understanding what they were writing. And it's good for professionals like product designers who routinely multitask across applications like Rhino, Notion, and Jira. Yeah, okay. Those things, honestly, all of these things actually would have done great on an Intel Mac too. So we're not exactly pumping like, this isn't like pumping nitrous into your fuel line. Like, it's not giving you a big boost. Not for those things. Okay. So I did want to come down to this because I think that this is a notable section. It's probably the only notable section here. A breakthrough for M1 and Intel-based upgraders. Okay. When did the M1 MacBook Pro come out? Yeah, so the original, now I'm just double checking this. The original 13-inch or 14-inch, whatever, came out in the end of 2020, November. The actual real MacBook Pros came out a little bit later. That was in 2021. With M1 Max, let's say. Let's see. Yeah. So the M1 Max versions, and this is very key to understand, the real MacBook Pros were almost a full year later. It was actually 11 months later. Instead of November, it was in October. So, here's the thing. First off, all these comparisons, for the most part, these are all based on comparing against the original M1, the base level M1, not the one that has a Pro or a Max chip. But regardless, we're now at the end of 2025. It's been 5 years since the M1 chip came out, and it has been a spectacular chip. It look, it's just a fact. The M1 chip is still a really, really great chip. And if you're using a base M1 chip, you're probably reaching that point of saying, you know what? I feel like I could actually feel some speed improvements if I were to get another or a newer Apple Silicon chip. You're probably not thinking, oh my God, my computer's so slow, it's unbearable. You're just thinking, I think I could finally feel a difference. And that's the timing. Like, that's where we are in the timing. And that's what people should feel. We're not to the point where anyone should be feeling, oh my God, I hate this thing. That's where people used to be at the 5-year mark when they used Intel-based chips. After 5 years, generally speaking, you probably were looking at your chip thinking, looking at your computer and thinking, wow, this really feels slow. This feels like it's aged out, like software has left us behind. Not to say you'd necessarily get rid of your computer at 5 years, but more like that's when you'd start really, like, you'd already felt it, but 5 years was when it actually felt aged out. I don't think that the M1 is there yet, but I think Apple recognizes that this is the upgrade cycle, and this is the time when a lot of people with a base M1 are probably thinking, yeah, I do actually want to upgrade. And we'll talk in a moment about why you shouldn't, but we'll get there. So yeah, for people who got a 14-inch MacBook Pro with an M1, I fully get it, and I can understand why they probably are thinking about upgrading. And Apple likely is recognizing the same thing. And they're highlighting all the things that they've done basically in the last 5 years. Big gains in performance, big upgrades to battery life. Of course, their Liquid Retina XDR display, which, okay. Advanced camera, mics, and speakers. AI, which maybe you guys shouldn't have put that in there. Just a suggestion. Yeah. And of course, higher limits on things like RAM. So I get it. This is a very well-timed, somebody recognized this is the time when they should actually start telling people, hey, did you get an M1? What do you think about upgrading? Because that is now the market that they want to be targeting. Because are there people still with Intel MacBook Pros in use? Absolutely. There's plenty. But they're not in high numbers. And there are a ton of people who bought M1s back when they came out. And those people probably are getting ready. So I think somebody at Apple knew what they were doing when they put this section in here, because yeah, it is actually kind of time for that group to think about upgrading. Again, don't. We'll talk about that in a moment. But it is understandable, and yeah, I can see it. That being said, look, I'm using an M1 Max, so it's not a fair comparison, but this thing's great. Honestly, I am still doing everything I need to. There are some things that I do that absolutely could benefit from speed upgrades, but not so much that I'm sitting here crying about, oh no, I started a operation and it's going to take like an hour to finish when I think it should take like 15 minutes. No, it's not like that. It just like, oh, hey, do I need to like render a video? Okay, well, instead of taking like 10 minutes like it would have on my Intel MacBook Pro, on my M1 Max, it's going to take like a minute and a half. Okay, cool. I can sit here and wait a minute and a half for a video to render out. That's fine. Is it a long video? Okay, now we might be talking about one that's going to take 10 minutes. And on the Intel, it would have taken an hour. I'm okay with that. I'm fine. How much faster would it be if I bought a brand new MacBook Pro? I don't know. Maybe that 10-minute render time might drop to, I don't know, 6 minutes, 5 minutes. For that difference, I don't need to upgrade. Not yet. I will want to upgrade at some point, but I don't need to right now. And I think I think video rendering is one of those things. Still not enough people do it. That this is going to speak for the majority. I think it's something that a lot of people do, but I think most people are also rendering out pretty short video. Anyway, so yeah, I like that they're advertising this. I think they recognize the right timing. Hold on. But yeah, it's just a little premature, I think, for the majority of people. Then of course they talk about Tahoe. We're gonna skip that because who cares? And then we get into the environment discussion as usual. And finally, of course, the 14-inch is going to be starting at $1,600. Okay. Yep, Diablo, there you go. That's exactly it. The M6 it's looming. So, Google can't wait for all the Gemini desktop app on Macs. Yeah, there is an element of that, I think. Okay. So why am I saying that nobody who got an M1 should be upgrading? I mean, look, I'm sure that if you don't need to go to a Pro or Max M1 or M series chip, then honestly, this probably looks like a really attractive MacBook Pro, and it is. Here's the catch. So Bloomberg, Mark Gurman, posted earlier today, hey, you've heard rumors about a touchscreen MacBook Pro. Well, it's in the roadmap. So the promise is that there is going to be a MacBook Pro coming with an OLED display in late 2026. It will come equipped with the M6 chip and several other changes, and we'll get to those changes momentarily. But yeah, the big thing here is touch screen. Oh boy, I want me a touchscreen. I'm not gonna lie, I want a touchscreen. I want it. I don't know that I would use it, but I want it. And also, I think it's even going to be terrible. I think it will not be an experience people will get much out of, but I want to see them do this. I think it's going to be such an interesting transition to watch them try to make this happen. So, I've talked about this in the past. It's been a long time though, but I don't feel like I have the voice capacity just speaking by myself. But I'm just going to simply say I can't wait to see what the software situation is going to look like. Got to make those iOS apps touch friendly. Nice. I love that you said it that way. Fact is, that's exactly it though. Mac apps by their nature are mostly not touch friendly. A lot of them are designed with a cursor in mind, so they have small touch targets. That's not changing. Look, Swift UI is really nice for doing quick, rapid design work. But here's the catch. You still are designing an interface that is not inherently touch-friendly. Designing touch-friendly interfaces is different than designing than designing just a Mac app. So all the Mac apps out there today are, unless they were specifically designed to be touch friendly for, let's say optimistic reasons, there's no Mac app today that's really going to just naturally and easily convert to being touch friendly. So you're still going to have to use a touchpad or a trackpad or a mouse or something like that for most Mac apps. That being said, Macs can run iOS and iPadOS apps, and most of those are really obviously designed to be touch friendly. So this is going to make using those apps feel not like a native experience, but a lot friendlier. Carson, welcome. How you doing, sir? You're a little late to the show, but I shall point out, if you cared about news, I did do a tie segment earlier. Anyway, so let's see. The touchscreen MacBook Pro, I think, it's clearly going to answer that question of, can we make the touchscreen apps for iOS and iPadOS actually behave nicely on a Mac to where people are going to want to use them? Because right now, if you've ever tried using any of those apps on a Mac, many of them work great. They just do. But if they involve things like multi-touch, basically like tapping two spots on a screen at the same time, that's kind of a bad experience. There is a way to simulate it, but it's not good. So having actual touchscreen, great. That will potentially solve that issue. And there are things that people will want to do with a touchscreen that they just can't really do as well with a trackpad. So I think this is a good idea. The catches, as the article highlights, of course, is it's going to cost more. Now, it's unclear exactly how much more, but purportedly it's probably going to add about $200 to the price tag. I'm not in love with that, but I could see it. Anyway, yeah, so that one feels questionable to me. Carson, your work laptop refreshes in February, so you're going to wait until these launch to make the upgrade. Good choice. Because in theory, this should not make the experience any worse for anything. It should only just be adding. Now, whether that's true in practice, we'll see. Currently, you're on a 16-inch MacBook Pro with M1 Pro. I actually have a better laptop than you. That is surprising. It's not by much. I just have a Max chip, and I think it's the lower end Max chip. And that's just because, honestly, like, the upgrade from a Pro to a Max was not that much, and the potential gains for video rendering were substantial. That was entirely the reasoning. But yeah, at this stage, I don't think anyone with any Apple Silicon MacBook, at least a MacBook Pro, I don't think anyone with one of those should be looking to upgrade until the M6s come out. If for no other reason than, like, maybe you don't care about the touchscreen or the M6, just wait, because I think that this will be one of those times where we see Apple substantially kind of not killing, but I think that when Apple releases these MacBook Pros, we're going to see the prices of all the other MacBook Pros dropping somewhat more significantly than they usually do. And yeah, people are going to probably be trying to sell off their old ones for fairly cheap. Let's see. And yeah, I hadn't gotten to the other features yet, but OLED. An upgrade to OLED would be really, really nice. Not to say that the MacBook Pro screens are anything other than exceptional already, but yeah, going to OLED is a big improvement. Or, well, it will be a noticeable improvement, maybe not a big improvement. Let's see. Apple should do 24 gigs as the base RAM on the Pros. That, I struggle with that one. I do. I actually think 16 is okay, as long as your use cases fit it. Don't get me wrong. I have said for ages that I think even casual users should not consider like 8 gigs of RAM. That's just insane. It's too low. But I think casual users can get away perfectly well with 16. I think a lot of other people, even people who would want a MacBook Pro, I think there are a lot of them that will do just fine on 16. But 24 does feel like a better choice. We're just at that point. Like 24 should just kind of be closer to the base, at least for the MacBook Pro. So, I mean, I agree with you, but I acknowledge that I can see why they're not necessarily going to go with 24 as the base. So I'm not mad at them for it. I just think that they're leaving open the possibility that some people will get a 16 and end up being disappointed. Let's see. So the other big change that is notable to go along with touchscreen and OLED display is that apparently they are going to finally get rid of the notch. Hallelujah. The notch sucks. Look, I know. A bunch of people will tell you they don't notice it. They don't mind it. They're wrong. They do notice it. They do mind it. But I'm pretty sure what they're doing is just telling themselves all this stuff because they don't want to admit that they're suffering. The notch sucks. How do I know this? Because I've used software that has a lot of menu items. Simple as that. Look, if you use something like Chrome, you're probably not hitting the maximum menu items. If you're using Xcode, your menus go past the notch. If you've used DaVinci Resolve, your menus go past the notch. If you've used, I want to say Logic Pro might even go past the notch. There are a lot of things like pro software, basically a lot of pro software where if you use them, those menus goes past the notch. And that sucks. It is such a miserable, crappy thing to have screwing up your menu bar. So, not a fan. I really am happy at the idea of getting rid of it. The only catch is they're also planning on keeping a punch hole camera. Or hole punch camera. Sorry, that is the correct order of the words. And as it was described, apparently this is very similar to, or it's inspired by or intends to resemble the dynamic island. Oh man, I kind of hope it doesn't. Look, there's a part of me that thinks the dynamic island looks cool and there's some aspects of it I like, but I am so worried that what they're going to do is leave something on the screen that takes too much space, gets in the way of stuff, and is going to potentially have more like animations coming out of it and doing a bunch of stuff with it, the way that the dynamic island on the iPhone works. And that is on an iPhone, I get it. I don't think it's a great answer, but I get it. It's clever. It looks cool. Not the best thing if you're into watching video or whatever, but okay, you know, it makes some sense. On a Mac, I would probably do anything to disable that because it would drive me crazy. There is nothing I want less than to have something ruining the Mac by just shoving weird animations or stuff popping out of the so-called dynamic island. So I know that they're going to do this because of course they are, but I really wish they wouldn't. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Just bring back a little bit of bezel on top. Not a lot. Just bring back the smallest amount of bezel on top, just enough that you can jam that camera in there, and that's it. Just that. Just put the camera back and we're good. They're probably not going to do that, but it is what it is. Let's see. So the other things that they're planning on doing, or the other thing they're planning on doing in response or to account for the touchscreen, is redesigning the hinge and screens so that they won't bounce or move when you touch. This is the one thing I think could lead to a downgrade. I saw Carson type something, but anyway, the or tiny teardrop camera. Yeah, I would hate a teardrop camera less, but I think that's still signing up for the same problem. I think it still means having a notch. And it's going to behave like a notch. It'll give back about an inch of screen space. And that's good. I mean, it's better. I just don't think it's going to solve the problem. It's just minimizing it. I'd rather just please just bring back, what would it take? I'm just ballparking here, but I think it would take like an extra probably 6 millimeters ish of bezel space. I mean, I'm looking at the MacBook Pro screen right now. Here's the thing. We have that at the bottom. You could literally you could keep the screen the same size it is now. Just shift it down. Just shift it down like 6 millimeters, maybe even a centimeter. I mean, that's not ideal, or not entirely ideal, but you could shift it down just by the smallest amount and it'd be okay. And the camera just needs to be jammed right there up at the top, like basically almost touching metal. If they did it, this would work great. It would be fine. There would technically be a little bit of structural integrity they'd have to worry about, and that's it. Nobody is going to complain about that. But to get rid of the stupid notch, it's worth it. Let's see. So, of course, Alyssa's saying, might upgrade to M6 Pro next year. See, if I can find the money, I want to as well. But we'll see also, because who knows? Who knows what the state of things will be by that time. And, oh, you'd be upgrading from... Are you upgrading from a base M1? You say you've got a 14... Oh, wait. Sorry. How did I pass over the M4? Okay, you've got a base M4. I'm not sure you even... And why did I say base? You've got a Pro. I can't read. It's been a long day. That's my defense. It's been a long day. So... But you've got a 14-inch... Would you be going to a 16-inch or staying 14? I'm not that it matters. I'm just kind of curious. Look up XPS laptop. Why? They have tiny bezel with the camera on top. Oh, okay. Yeah, then that kind of says it all then. Here's the thing, and I've said it before, I'll say it over and over and over again. I keep repeating it. I also wish that Apple would just sell a version without a camera. Like, it's a small request. I think there's nothing wrong with this. Okay, maybe I need to look at... Because their store pages on Dell suck. XPS laptop, how about... Okay, I guess we'll just use this. All right. I'm going to assume there's a camera there, even though the resolution on this is just terrible. But, yeah, that looks fine to me. I can't fathom why anyone would complain about this. I think this is perfect. You can fit a camera there. There's no reason not to. So, Apple, get your crap together. Just do this. It's not that tough. You don't need to have a notch ruining things. That's my official position. You don't have to have a notch ruining things. So, yeah, I'm just irritated with that decision, and I hope that they don't go with a hole punch, but they might. Let's see, Alyssa, you would say at 14-inch. Okay. I don't know. I'm just I could do 14-inch. Nothing about me wants to though. I want more screen real estate. I kind of wish that they were making 17-inch. It wouldn't fit in most of my bags, but I still would want a 17-inch laptop if I could get it. Let's see. You also got a custom M4 Pro Mac Mini. Okay. Yeah, but there won't be a reason to upgrade the Mac Mini for a while. A good long while, I think. Let's see. Macs are your personal devices. Yeah, well, Windows is for gaming and presumably for work. Macs are definitely the more personal friendly device. But yeah, so again, one of the things that they're supposedly doing is upgrading the hinge and screen hardware. So I'm curious about this. So one of the things that they've always really praised Macs for, or MacBook Pros in particular, but all the Macs were supposed to do this. There's this thing where the base versus the screen, the hinge is supposed to always work so that the base sitting on a surface, you're supposed to be able to reach down and just hook your finger on the front edge of the screen when the whole thing is closed and just lift the screen into place. I want to see that work with this new hinge, because I feel like there's no way that these two things are going to go together unless the hinge is somehow designed to have really fluid motion while it's in motion, and then like once it has stopped, maybe then it gains some amount of resistance and makes it harder to be closed or something like that. I don't know, but I'm suspicious that this is going to become a problem. Not that it's that big of a deal. People will learn to live with opening their laptop with two hands or whatever. But this is just one of those little things that people who are big fans of MacBooks will very much notice, and I kind of wonder if it's going to trigger anyone. Having said that, also one of the other interesting things is apparently they are not planning to do a touchscreen version of any other Macs anytime soon. It's only going to be the MacBook Pros. Oh boy. This is interesting to me because that's what they tried doing with the Touch Bar. The Touch Bar only came out for a select few models of MacBook Pros, and maybe I don't remember if it was on an Air, but a part of me wants to think it was on one of the Airs. Anyway, it was definitely not on most of them, and it was not on the most popular model. Therefore, no software was ever made to work with the MacBook Air, or sorry, with the no software was ever made to work with a Touch Bar. It's not that we need software design for a touchscreen in this instance, for it to still be fine and for people to use it and find uses for it. But my question becomes, how likely is it that this is going to be a thing where Apple looks at this, say, 12 months in and says, you know what? No one's really using the touchscreen stuff. And no one's built apps for the touchscreen stuff, which, of course, any developer is going to repeat the same story as the Vision Pro and basically say, there just aren't enough people with this. Like, we'd love to make software for it, but nobody has one, so why should we? So I do kind of wonder if Apple's setting this up for failure. They basically make a touchscreen and then watch as the normal people upgrade to an M6. They use it. They might like the touchscreen, but most of them won't get to use it very much because there's no software built for it, unless they're using a lot of iPad and iPhone apps. And then as a result, Apple looks at whatever sort of telemetry they have and basically says, you know what, yeah, this isn't necessary. Let's drop the touchscreen and go back and try this again some other day. We'll see. I don't know. I don't want to make any bets on it, but I just kind of don't have the highest hopes here. Just because of that, I think they might be setting themselves up for an inherent failure. Let's see. Earlier, Carson said, "Do you think that it filtered one of your messages?" Let's see. Prior to that, you'd said gonna do 16-inch for work laptop, 14-inch for personal. The 16-inch is already so heavy. See, I don't know. I don't mind it, but I've always used heavy laptops, so I guess maybe I'm just programmed to be fine with them. I don't have any particular appeal or attraction to like a super light laptop. Anyway, and then you say you think it filtered one of your messages. I don't know. If it did, I don't get anything out of context that would suggest that that's the case. Let's see. So, let's see. Touchscreen iMac. And Alyssa, yeah. Touchscreen iMac or Riot. Here's the thing. I think they kind of need to do something like this. That was one of the things that always blew me away with the touch bar. I kept saying over and over again, you put a touch bar into a laptop. Most people, a lot of people use their laptop like 50% of the time connected to an external display, and probably or with a wireless keyboard in some capacity. Like, they never put out another version of the touch bar in a wireless keyboard or even wired. Why not? That was sacrificial to the touch bar. The fact that they never came out with a peripheral that ran the touch bar was part of the problem. And so, yeah, that was a doomed technology because they never gave an opportunity for people to use it unless they got the very specific versions of MacBooks that had it. So, honestly, Apple's decisions made sure the touch bar would fail. Let's see. Alyssa, you do bring up a good point, and believe me, it's one that I've considered many times. How much better will the first implementation of a touchscreen Mac be? And yeah, I think early adopter situation could be rough on this one. And I don't know, maybe it'll be fine. Maybe it'll be great. But a little bit of me does wonder, are they possibly going to screw something up making a touchscreen MacBook Pro that in, say, a second or third generation they fix the problem and then every one of them is perfect after that? I don't know. The one thing I think will kind of answer that is reviews. Because I don't know that I don't think I'll be jumping on a touchscreen MacBook Pro like as soon as it's released, assuming I can afford it. But I do think that it's something that I would wait for reviews, look at what people are saying, and if people generally are widely in agreement that they just did it right, then I'd be a lot more interested in just getting the first iteration. Otherwise, not so much. And the other side of that, or the other edition, I've said it so many times. Where's stylus input? Give us stylus input. Why has that? I'll tell you what. I don't even care about touchscreen. I can skip touchscreen. I want stylus input. How has that not been a thing yet? Anyway. I mean, you can literally do it using Sidecar on an iPad. Why is that not a thing just on the Macs, or on an iMac, or sorry, a MacBook Pro screen? And likewise, more importantly, why not on the trackpad? It would be so easy to do on the trackpad, and we need it more on the trackpad too. The trackpad is the place where it should be. Well, screen and trackpad ideally would be both. Anyway, let's see. Windows has more code for touchscreen in the OS. This is Mac OS's first iteration. It'll take 2 tries to perfect it and make it viable. Well, notably, you're talking about OS, which is software, versus would the hardware be good and then they can just fix bugs in the software later. Keep those things in mind. There's something flying around my head now. Why does nothing fly into the zapper I have over there? Anyway, so let's see. Oh, did one of the messages not show up in the stream chat? Okay. Yeah, that could happen. Because Streamlabs is bad at this. One of these days in the not too distant future, I have wanted to do this for a long time. I want to build just a bot that can sit on the channel and watch chat, and I want my bot to be watching for messages, not Streamlabs, because Streamlabs misses a lot of stuff. But anyway, at least you're not lugging around an RTX 5090 laptop. Yeah, those are some meaty boys. You have a USB-C fingerprint reader for the Mac Mini, because it has mechanical and an Apple USB-C Magic Trackpad. Okay. Trackpad over mouse on macOS any day? Yes, 100%. A mouse does. Most mice are not well designed for Macs, for numerous reasons, not least of which is the scroll wheel. Most mice have clicked scroll wheels, and they do not behave correctly on macOS. They just do not work right. You have to have a mouse that has a nice smooth scroll wheel, and it has to behave well on macOS. The other thing is gestures. I'm sorry, but I don't even use a lot of gestures, but I use a couple, and you can't do that well on a mouse. You just can't. A trackpad is so much better. Let's see. DocuSign petition. Yeah, I mean, give us a stylus for that. Let's see. Mobile also doesn't support alt chat option, only talk chat. Oh, weird. I've never really used mobile for watching video, especially live. I mean, I do occasionally watch video on it, but very, very rarely do I use it for live stuff. Really quickly, I saw a message I want to check. Oh yeah, okay, that's fine. Nothing I need to worry about. Cool. The Magic Mouse has awful ergonomics, so flat. So I agree it has awful ergonomics, not least of which because you have to flip it upside down to charge it, which is just absolutely insane. But I think it also, I think it has no choice. It has to have bad ergonomics because imagine if it was rounded correctly, then it would be terrible to do gestures on it. It does support gestures, they're just not very good. So it's sacrificing good ergonomics to have bad ergonomics so that instead of having completely terrible gesture control, it can have mediocre gesture control. I don't know that that's a good sacrifice to make. Honestly, it just seems like a bad idea. I think they screwed up on the Magic Mouse entirely. Truthfully, I think a regular mouse that just has more buttons that you can assign to the things that gestures would do, I think that would have been a better choice. Let's see. You use a G502 for gaming. The old OG iMac mouse from the 90s and 2000s. Yeah. Computer Lab in the early 2000s from... Yeah. So anyway, I'm really curious what this M6 MacBook Pro is going to ultimately be like and review like. I think it will be good, but I'm waiting to see. Also, I think that there's an interesting timing problem that they might have to face pretty soon. So, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll check this right now. So let's see. If we go to the Mac shop, let's see. Yeah, okay. So the M5 MacBook Pro. Let's see. Can we get this in anything other than the base chip? No. M5 is the only option here. So, oh, sorry. Forgot to change the screen. There we go. So, the M5 is the only option here. Exactly. No Pro and no Max. Now, this is interesting because it sets up for Apple to have a really big problem on their hands. Oh, and they don't even... Yeah, that's right. They don't even have the 16-inch out yet. So it's only the 14-inch not so pro Mac Pro or MacBook Pro. Okay. So I'm going to ask an interesting, complicated question here. Will there be an M5 Pro or Max, and will they ever release a MacBook Pro with either of those chips? Think of why I'm asking this. So let's say, hypothetically, because we're in October of 2025. The year is effectively over. Apple could have one more announcement next month. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Okay. They're probably not going to release the 14 and 16-inch true Pro MacBook Pros a month after the 14-inch comes out. Right? Does this sound wrong to anybody? So they're probably not going to put out an M5 Pro or Max chip within the next month. Which means the next time that they could do it, it would be, say, February. It's possible. They could do that. There would be nothing strictly wrong with that. But the longer they wait, the closer it comes to the timing for... Oops, not that guy. This guy. The touchscreen MacBook Pro, that is slated for late 2026 or early 2027. So if Apple doesn't get an M5 Pro out in a MacBook Pro before, say, I don't know. Someone tried to think of a good time next year other than February. February is kind of in that safe zone. But other than February, like, they almost never release anything in March, or at least announce things in March. Sometimes they do April, but usually April's dedicated more to like education events. They, again, May is rare, but occasional. June, a little bit better odds, but again, probably not. So, but let's say hypothetically that they release an M5 Pro in June. Then they're going to come out with a touchscreen in possibly late 2026. So what, November? So they're going to release a Pro, that the actual high-end MacBook Pro based on an M5 in, say, September. And then in June, and then come September or October, well, sorry, it won't be September, but in, say, October or November, then they release a touchscreen model. And it could be it could be early 2027 instead. But the same problem still exists. They would have released their high-end M5 so close to replacing it with the touchscreen model. People are going to be pissed. It looks bad. It actively looks bad. So I'm just going to say I'm looking at this as a timing issue, and I think there's almost no chance that they launch a M5 Pro or Max MacBook Pro. I mean, it's not impossible. And there is a scenario where maybe what they do is launch the Pro and Max models early next year. Say, again, February, maybe April. Somewhere in that time frame. And then when my throat's running out of gas, trust me. Anyway, so then when it comes to the touchscreen, maybe there's a chance that instead of releasing an actual Pro, they just release an M6, a base M6 version first, and then wait again, say 6 months or something, and then they could release the Pro and Max versions. These are possibilities, but I kind of don't see that happening. I think if they're releasing a touchscreen model, they're going to want to release a 14 and 16 inch model right away. And I don't think they do those with the base chips. I think that has to be with an M6 Pro and an M6 Max. Maybe I'm wrong. But this looks like such a complicated calendar where any attempt to release an M5 Pro and Max in a MacBook Pro, I think is going to set them up for having some really pissed off customers who are just going to say, man, you release these, and then like a few months later, you're releasing the chip that replaces them. And I don't think that's a good look. So I'm just going to kind of predict it now. I don't think that there's going to be an M5 Pro and Max coming in a MacBook Pro. Now, will they do that for an iMac, a Mac Studio, or Mac Pro? Yes, absolutely. They can do it. It's fine. Or even a Mac Mini. I just don't think that they're going to do it for the MacBook Pros. I think the MacBook Pros are the M5 MacBook Pro is just going to be the 14 inch. They're going to wait till next year, and assuming that they're able to get the touchscreen model out in time, then I think they just wait for that, and that's where they'll shove out the 14 and 16-inch models. They will be fully decked out with an M6 Pro and Max, and that'll be their strategy for the touchscreen, because that will also set up a situation where a lot of people are waiting for the next generation MacBook Pro, the real pros. A lot of people will be waiting for them, and the touchscreen model comes out, and people will be like, oh, hey, I was waiting for this. Now this is the year to upgrade. Like, this is the perfect time to upgrade. And a ton of people will be motivated to get a touchscreen model. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that is the strategy that gives them the most opportunity to get more people to buy the touchscreen model, get more people to wait for the touchscreen model, get more people invested in like going touchscreen. And I think that is a benefit to Apple if they go that strategy. Maybe I'm way off base. I don't know. But that's what I'm thinking. So yeah. I honestly did not think there was going to be this much to say about it, but the touchscreen MacBook Pro, I think that this is a really interesting and complicated thing, because there's so much to consider with the scheduling, so much to consider with the release cycle. And after I just finished saying over and over again, I think the M5 chip was kind of like a a very iterative generational update. Here we are, kind of, I think it's going to end up going, what was it, the M3 was the short cycle one, or was it the M2? One of them had a really short lifespan on it before they replaced it. And yeah, I think the M5 is probably going to go through the same cycle. It's just not going to have that lifespan that the others did. Let's see. January Alyssa, you say January announcements are not uncommon for Apple. I mean, I'll disagree right there. Just saying I'm not saying they don't happen. I'm saying that they're uncommon. And I mean, even if they do have one, okay, it's 1 month earlier than February. It's still that's still really close, and it would still be putting less than a year lifespan on some Pro chips. And I don't know that Apple wants to do that if they can avoid it. It's a bad look to come out with them, and then that fall you immediately replace them. Like, that is really a short lifespan for a Pro chip to be like top of the line. But yeah, anyway. Okay, so I think maybe that was the M2 then, that was a short lifespan. The next Air will have an A chip. That'd be hilarious. Let's see. Diablo, if you were an Apple genius, you'd tell people don't buy. I mean, you'd probably get fired for it, but because Apple geniuses actually get they are told never to talk about rumors. That is actually a very hard rule. They are not allowed to discuss or talk about rumors with customers. And they're basically told to pretend they don't exist. So they are only supposed to talk about the products they have in store. Let's see. Chromebook competitor. Ugh. As far as Apple's concerned, the Chromebook competitor is the iPad. That's not even a joke. It is. You'd get fired. Honestly, I feel like if I was an Apple genius, I'd probably get fired too. Because, man, I'd be one of those people who's like, um, I'd stand there and just look someone straight in the eye and say, you should absolutely be buying a MacBook Pro right now. Like, you will not regret it in any way, shape, or form. I swear you should get one this minute. Do it now. Let's see. Sent to RambleCast. Carson, you think that interface is confusing to the average user? I mean, I don't disagree, but I don't know that I don't know that it's that bad either. So, I mean, the sort by all chips or filtering down to a specific chip, I think that's fine. The thing I don't love, and this is getting into weird sort of nitpicky design elements here, but you've got the... That's basically no good way to highlight. Okay, so you've got the outline around one button, and then the buttons down below, these are filled, which, I mean, from a design aspect, that's a poor decision. Because it, they should theoretically match across the two. But yeah, then when you switch to 16 and the M5 just disappears, yeah, that's messy. What I find problematic, I still think that the base 14-inch MacBook Pro that is not really a MacBook Pro, I think that's confusing to regular people, and actually to us too. Like, we understand it, we know what it is, we know why it exists ish. I don't understand why they're doing this to regular people though, because people go into the store, they see, oh, it's a MacBook Pro and it only costs $1,600. Ooh, that's so good. No, it isn't. No, it isn't, guys. It's not good. That's the problem. It's not good. It's not really a pro. But yeah, then they pop over to the pros and or the chip that has pro in the name, and woo, all of a sudden it's $2,000. That's scary. So I get why this exists. It makes it look like you're saving $400 and maybe not sacrificing all that much, but then you start needling for what are the differences in the specs, what are the different features, what's different in the chip between a base M5 and what would be an M5 Pro or Max, or the previous generation M4 Pro or Max. The thing is, a lot of people, I would still say, depending on what you're doing, don't be stupid. Get an M4 Pro. Like, an M4 Pro is a better chip than an M5 in most ways. I'm sure there's some specific ways where an M5 is probably better, but yeah, the differences are there. Like, you should probably, if you care about like workload, the actual power of the laptop, an M4 Pro is way better. And obviously an M4 Max. An M4 Max, in almost any regard, is going to just completely decimate an M5. So, these are the differences. But yeah, for a consumer, they don't know or understand that. And to some extent, that's the consumer's, I don't want to say fault, but it's on the consumer for not knowing, I suppose, that the product cycle works the way it does. Obviously, like, it's hard to blame Apple and be like, oh, it's Apple's fault for coming out with the M5 before they come out with the M5 Pro or Max. Well, no, that's, I mean, sure, Apple could come out with the Pro and Max versions, but that's product cycles. Some you come out with the lower power thing first in most cases, and then you come out with the better stuff later. That's a normal product cycle for most companies. So I'm not mad at them for that. But I think also a lot of people just, they see M5 and think, oh, that must be better than all the M4s. It's not. It's not. Honestly, like, you're probably better off getting an M4 in most regards, unless you're either going to keep that computer for the, like, its fully supported life cycle, in which case you want the latest chip, because it's probably just going to get updates for longer. And again, for very specific things where the latest technology matters, then you might want to get the M5 for that. Otherwise, the M4 chips that are more expensive are going to also produce more power. Let's see. The higher chips have Thunderbolt 5, whereas M5 only has Thunderbolt 4. Yes, that's exactly one of the examples where you really want to stick to those higher chips. But that's also only if you're going to use Thunderbolt 5. The catch here, go out and find Thunderbolt 5 anything. Find anything that uses Thunderbolt 5. There are a few monitors on the market that absolutely do. You can get Thunderbolt 5 docks. They exist. Good luck using one. And dear God, I feel sorry for anyone that has to, or that chooses to buy one, because holy crap, those things are expensive. Thunderbolt 5 is just it's a super powerful, it's really awesome, but it's also something very, very few people will be able to make any use out of right now. That being said, if you can make use of it, hell yeah, you want the hardware that can do it. Let's see. Let's see. 32 gig is the minimum in 2025. I'd say 24 is. And even then, 16 for some people. But 24 is where I think a lot of people would be happy. Or almost everyone is going to be happy on 24. Some people can be happy on 16. Everyone would be happy on 32 unless you're an extreme power user. At which point, 64 may not even make you happy. Like, there are some people that are never going to be happy no matter how much RAM they have. But yeah, I honestly, like, 16 will make a lot of people happy. 24 I think should be the minimum, or like a standardized minimum for a MacBook Pro at least. If you're using, like, if you're down on like the smallest baseline MacBook Air, let's be honest, 16 is probably fine. But 24 would be better. Let's see. Thunderbolt 4 doesn't support 5K 120. Thunderbolt 5 does. Very niche though. Yeah. That's, for right now, that is definitely very niche. Mostly because outside, consider what things can use 120 hertz. That's for gaming. It can be for video that was recorded in high frame or high frame speed. But you tend not to watch that video at 120 hertz. If you record something at 120, you're probably recording it so that you can play it in slow motion. Regardless, yeah, 120 for the most part is really only for games. And some people argue it's for desktop interface, and okay, you know, I guess if you want it to be, it is, but I feel like 120 is mostly not important for most people on a desktop. It might be nice. It's a perk, but it's think I think mostly it's not an important one. Uh, you generally use the next step above the minimum for gaming. Um, but desktop has 48, so naturally you got that on your MacBook Pro too. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with getting 48. I think that's fine. Like, go for it. But one of the points, like whether we like it or not, Mac OS right now is better with memory management, and unless you have a single thing that uses all that memory, you mostly can get away with with lower than whatever Windows would do. So I'm just trying to think of what things on macOS really require even more than 32. And my answer really is, you're going to laugh, but about the only answer I really have that requires more than 32 is Chrome. Google Chrome wants to use as much as it can get its grubby hands on. But outside of that, not much. Let's see, Carson. You also notice the difference in smoothness between 60 hertz monitor and the MacBook Pro 120 hertz. I don't know that I notice it. Actually, the thing is, what is my display even on? Let's see. Where is it at? Displays. Okay. Is there any way to see what your display refresh rates are showing up as? I don't think there is there? Okay. Let's quickly search. Is there a way to check that? This Reddit thread. Okay. So, okay, with a developer account, you can apparently see this. I don't see why that should require a developer account. That should just be something you can do with the dev tools. Okay, apparently I don't think I have a tool though, so maybe that is something that requires a dev account. Oh, it's something that has to be downloaded from the developer portal. Okay, so that's why. Well, okay. The thing is, I don't think it's going to be on my monitor. Oh, never mind. Okay. I literally just pop up the menu, and down at the bottom it shows the resolution and it's 60 hertz. I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure my monitor is 60 hertz, but I wasn't 100% positive that it wasn't possibly 30. I didn't think it would be, and I know my monitor's from 2015. I think 2015, so there was no chance it was going to be 90. Not with an ultra wide. This is a Dell ultra wide, so there was no chance it was going to be a 90 hertz display. They didn't make them at the time. Yeah. And I know you sent that message probably just like a second before I started explaining that. The good old YouTube lag. Anyway, so yeah, there's no chance that this was going to go over 60 hertz, but that being said, you never know. I always have to check stuff like this, because sometimes you look and it's like, oh yeah, it totally only works at this other refresh rate, or something like 30 hertz. Which, if it was 30, I think I would have noticed that a long time ago. But the thing is, like, I do notice a difference. Like in scrolling, I can tell that there is a difference between, like, actually, I'm not even sure I really see that big of a difference after all. I don't know. Okay. So yeah, I'm not sure I really notice enough of a difference between 60 and 120. At least, maybe that's a distance thing, and maybe it's a screen brightness issue even. Because I do have my MacBook Pro display turned relatively low. Maybe if I crank it way up, somehow I catch on every cable that I have right there. Is it any better if I do that? Oh wow, it actually looks worse. That's weird. Huh. How on earth does it look worse? Maybe it's because I'm just scrolling Chrome windows. Maybe those don't behave correctly. I remember there being a thing about that. Anyway. Let's see. You got hooked on OLED monitors. Yeah, I'd like to, but that's well outside of what I'm going to pop for if I was to start making any hardware investments. Anyway, so yeah, and like you said earlier, you're focusing on music recording and editing, which I'm not doing it. I'm not interested in the music side of it. I'm doing more video stuff, but music does play a factor in that. So, but I'm not going to be recording and editing music so much. It's more just mixing sound effects, dialogue, and background music is pretty much all I'm really going to be doing. And that's not something I need to worry about doing live, or not much. Anyway, let's see. You have a 27-inch. Okay, I read that part. Doesn't help you get. Okay, yeah. So I'm caught up on messages. I've read everything out of orders, so it sometimes gets a little lost in the mix. But 2 ultra wides and a regular panel at the gaming setup. Yeah, that's a lot of screen space. Which, believe me, I would make some use out of. That's why I like the ultra wide. Here's the thing, I really like the ultra wide. I know all these people who said, oh, what you need to do is just get two monitors. And it's like, no, 2 monitors does not solve anything for me. I mean, it might be kind of nice in some ways, but I want an ultra wide. Because I'm not just putting maximized windows on each monitor. Sometimes I have a single window fully spread out across the ultra wide. You can't do that with two monitors stacked together. At least it's not a good experience. I do not. I mean, I get why people suggest it. It makes some sense, but no, an ultra wide gives you superpowers that you cannot accomplish with regular monitors. And I know it's not for everyone. Some people do not like ultra wides for various reasons. Some people want multiple monitors. Some people, their whole thing is they specifically want to have two monitors because then they put one window in one window in another, maximize both of them, and that's how they want to work. I get it. Cheers. Do that. For me, it's the other way around. I kind of like having freeform windows. When I moved to Mac OS ages ago, like before that, having used Windows obviously exclusively, I wasn't like super diligent about organizing everything, but I did have a really rigorous system for where I put windows. It wasn't hyper organized and I wasn't using window managers. I just had places that I moved all my windows to. Once I moved over to a Mac, I tried doing that for a while, and I did do that for a while. It was fine for a while, but I progressively moved out of that into kind of more of a free form. I have sides or corners that I kind of move windows to, but not religiously. And depending on what I'm doing, I'll move a window to a different spot later. Like, I mean, for streaming, when I'm doing live streams, if I'm doing a RambleCast like this, I always have, and this is gonna show, I'll reverse it because it'll make more sense as I'm saying it. So on this side, I have the chat, which again, I'm reversing it. So you see me looking that direction. That's where the chat is for me. But then in the center, I'll have like my notes and stuff like that. And then over to this side is, well, up here is where I would put like the chat with Corbin or something like that. Right now, since there's no Corbin, I have my like notes for this stream, which actually no reason to have those open anymore because I'm effectively done. I have one other topic that I can spend a minute on, but yeah, I'm a little more rigorous about placement for live streams, but for a lot of other stuff, I'm not. Like, as I'm doing various other things, I'll just kind of put a window where it feels good. And then if I have other windows I need to see, I'll kind of nudge things in a certain direction and move them in that moment. I don't worry about having every last thing in perfect position at it, that it'll always pop up there again, because 9 times out of 10, if I keep everything in exactly the same position from one situation to the next, then I suddenly go, oh, well, no, now I need this other thing open, and it screws up the whole system. So I have to nudge everything around anyway. Which I think this is part of why wides or ultra wides are so nice for me, because I want as much flexibility as I can get. Let's see. You have a 45 and 34 inch ultra wide stacked in horizontal and a 27 inch panel in vertical. You run the game on the, okay. And yeah, notably, by the way, I pointed to where I have everything lined up. I should point out I always have Discord positioned directly below the chat window during a RambleCast. If I'm game streaming, none of this stuff works. I need a different monitor for game streaming. Or I need an extra monitor for game streaming if I ever reach that point. Which actually, in fairness, at that point, what I really should do is just have a actual proper gaming monitor, and then the ultra wide needs to become the monitor I just have open for chat and everything else. But that would be the perfect scenario, and we're far from perfect right now. Anyway, let's see. And then I always hide my OBS window in the other corner, basically below wherever Corbin's video stream would be if he's in the chat. So yeah, I basically have 5 windows positioned in spots. And then there's, not always, but a lot of times, there's this little gap right down at the bottom middle where I can literally see through to my background. Sometimes I almost think I should put a cute picture just there, because why not? It would be my own little amusement to have something small and cute in that spot. But yeah, anyway. So I'm going to hit this one last topic, not because I even really have anything to say about it. I just think it's interesting, and I'm almost a little sad because I think Corbin would have had something to say on this, because he has to put up with this. But it just hit yesterday that California passed a law that's going to allow renters to opt out of paying for an ISP they don't want. So if you rent an apartment building, what a lot of apartment buildings have started doing is basically having these exclusive agreements with ISPs. And the agreements just outright say, if you live in this apartment, it does not matter what, you have to pay for broadband, and it has to be with the ISP that we chose. This is a deal that a lot of apartments use to basically extort a little bit of extra money out of the renters. All the renters are going to need those broadband, of some kind anyway. So to be fair, it's not completely useless, but it does introduce a lot of crappy deals. And it tends to be the really, let's just say, abusive ISPs that work these deals. They tend not to be very good for their customers. So, that's not always true, but a lot of times it is. So anyway, California has basically said, yep, we're rejecting this. We don't accept this business practice anymore of forcing people to pay for a service that maybe they don't want to use for one reason or another. Maybe they can't use it for assorted reasons. You never know what an ISP might be doing, or rather, if maybe you do know how a certain ISP handles data, and they might decide, this isn't for us. So people can now opt out of it, and instead, here's where things do get a little complicated. So let's say that you wanted to use a different ISP. Now, if it is hey, Tiger. One of my cats just walked by my room and meowed at me. The thing is, when it comes to wired ISPs, the landlord can still decide that they don't want to let anyone place lines into the building other than whatever particular broadband provider they chose. That's still a power that they have. But where this matters is, let's say that you've got a decent wireless ISP somewhere in your area, and you could then sign up with them instead. So what you can do now is basically opt out of the broadband that's provided, or not provided by, but the only option that your apartment building offers. You can opt out of that service and basically get your money back for that broadband service. And then you can sign up with the wireless ISP and get broadband service through them. And yeah, so you don't have all the options that might be available in your area, but you do have more options. And yes, this is cool. I'm glad California is at least doing this. And I was actually going to turn this story originally into a news segment at the start of the stream. By the way, reminder for anyone who came late, if you enjoyed the news segments, I did one at the start of the stream. So after this is done, feel free to go back and watch those if if you're so inspired. But very notably, the federal government, through the FCC, was actually going to do this a year or so ago. Back in March of 2024, it was floated past the FCC, and it was something that was on the way to becoming a thing before, of all people, Chairman Brendan Carr got in, and he killed it. So the guy who was basically responsible for getting well, he's not responsible for getting Colbert canceled. We kind of know that one's a separate issue, but the one who decided to make it his mission to try to take down Jimmy Kimmel, yeah, this same guy was like, no, we like the idea that anyone living in an apartment building has no choice but to basically give socialism to just really rich ISPs because they're too big to fail. The little guys, though, we can kill those off. Yeah, this is what this guy is. He is pretty much, he's awful. So, and notably, I feel comfortable saying that because, granted, I'm not speaking across anything that resembles broadcast TV, and I probably won't be for anything resembling the foreseeable future. So Brendan Carr, since you have absolutely no power over me, I just want to say, dude, you suck. You actually suck. Like, you are a special kind of suck. So, go back to polishing the knob and just shut the hell up, man. All right. Now that I've said that. Anyway, let's see. Alyssa said, you do Xfinity if DOCSIS 4.0 hits Massachusetts and Eris releases a consumer-grade DOCSIS 4.0 modem. It's starting to add up a lot of requirements here. So let's see. 4.0 can easily do 4 gigabit per second symmetrical. 3.1 real world can do 200, that can do 2 gigabit down and 50 megabit up. Yeesh, was that it? I thought it was higher than that. Yeah, but we are closing in on the point where we really do need slightly higher data rates. Not that I'm crying or anything about my data speeds, but they'll target me like that judge. Well, if they come anywhere near me, I'm a little more capable of fighting back than I talk about. And in ways that you may be picturing, and in ways that you're not picturing. I may be broke, but I'm not powerless. Anyway, so yeah, we are in that place where we really do need to start seeing some movement towards upgrading the internet as a whole. I want to say the grid, but that's not really the right term here. But we are in a place where we do need to start seeing the bandwidth going up for what I would expect to be the last time that we really need to see it for a long time. And what I mean by that is the average person, if you could put gigabit speeds into the average household, the average person is happy. They do not need more than that. Some people do, but the average person, the average family, can get away with gigabit down, no questions asked. That is perfectly good. But there are a whole ton of people whose data rates are a lot more like 200 megabit down, and certainly a lot of people who are even well below that. If I remember, I think broadband is officially defined as 100 megabit down. I might have that wrong. I could look that up. What is the current minimum to be considered broadband? Yep, 100 megabits. Yay, I was right. And 20 megabits up. So the thing is that sufficient for certainly streaming and doing some other stuff at the same time? 100 megabits will get you there. It's not great, but it's fine. DOCSIS 4 caps out at 10 down and 6 up. I mean, that's more than most people can possibly use. Again, I said most people. Because there are some people who there's some people who, if you said 10 gigabit down, they're still going to scoff and be like, seriously, if I could get it, I'd be pushing like 30 down. But most of those people are moving like video footage back and forth for their jobs. Most people are not that. Anyway, so yeah, this is the thing is, I think we're getting close to that point where we do need to start talking about nationally pushing that broadband minimum up to like 250. I don't think it has to go too much higher than that as a minimum. And I think that what should be considered normal, because right now, I could be wrong, I don't think gigabit is normal. I think we're close to that though. I think gigabit needs to become the normal with 250 as a minimum. And obviously the faster the better. But yeah, that's where we should be. Most people are not. Yeah, I don't know that there's much to add to that. But it, like, right now, actually, let's see if I check where is, oops, typing terribly here. Okay, oh, I've got to remember to just actually use the use my keyboard not stupidly. Wait, how much am I paying for that? I might need to look up my internet bill again, because something does not seem right. Oh wait, never mind. That's right. They hide the so my ISP is good about a lot of things, but has one specific crappiness to them. So these are the prices for my ISP. Right now, I'm on this plan, which sounds really good as a $50 a month plan. It's low by, or this isn't the greatest speeds for a $50 a month plan anymore, but it used to be pretty good. The annoying part is this is one of those places where they like to sneak in the that is the price for the first 12 months, and then they switch to a higher price afterward, which, yeah, don't love that. That kind of pisses me off. But yeah, for an extra, well, not $10 a month, for an extra $20 a month, it could be gigabit. Which would be nice. I could certainly use it, but I'm not going to. Like, it's not worth it, and I don't need it. But yeah, I think at this point, it was just a little over a year ago that their speeds were, I think it was 150 symmetrical. I could have that wrong, but it was a little while back that they upgraded it and basically said, hey, we're giving everyone a free upgrade to blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, it got upgraded to 250, and that was nice, but then obviously came with the, here's the but. It's after a year, it's going to cost more. So that happened, and I don't love it, but kind of stuck with it. Yeah, let's see. When you get back on YouTube, gonna stream at that, because YouTube adjusts the video player to the aspect ratio, unlike Twitch. Twitch is so bad. I'm sorry, but Twitch really is just terrible. Let's see. You cap out that 250 megabit with all the 4K streams in your house. Well, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. 4K streams are still just really data hungry. I mean, they're doable, but yeah, they suck. So yeah, one of these days, believe me, it wouldn't be anywhere near the first priority, but somewhere in the future, once I can get a little bit of income going off of this channel, one of the things I'd like to do is push to gigabit up and down. It wouldn't make huge differences, but it would be a nice little quality of life thing and save a little bit of hassle. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know, there's not a whole lot else to say. Wait, is there? What is this? I scrolled down the page and there is this other chart of various plans. And it has more options. And I'm kind of not sure what these... Oh, it's their business versus their consumer. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. Yeah, I'm not going to touch... Why is their business so high? Oh, because it's coming with hardware. Oh, screw that noise. Okay. That's junk then. Cool. All right. Glad I'm not interested in that. Besides, I've got better hardware than any of the stuff any ISP is going to shovel out. All right. Anyway, so I think I have exhausted what my voice can take. I have almost certainly exhausted any of the topics that I can still babble about. So with that, I'm going to take off. As usual, I will be back this weekend for some game streams. I will also be... Let's see. Wait, what is the date? I will have things to announce in a week or 2 weeks, something. I'll be sharing some stuff in Discord, let's say. And then what else is coming? I don't remember. Anyway, yeah, and then RambleCast next week. Corbin should theoretically be back on, and we'll be talking about things, stuff. I don't know what. We'll figure it out. What else? Anyway, thanks everyone for coming by, hanging out, and being part of the stream. Oh, Alyssa, you're asking about evenings for game streams. I'm gonna have... okay. I don't think so, but I'm gonna have to follow up on that, because here's why. It's kind of tough to do streams at night right now, because a lot of times I have to go out and herd cats. Because they don't like coming in at night, because they're they're old enough to play, but they're not really old enough to spend all night outside. So catching them kind of is a thing. But it might not be. I don't know. I need to think a little bit about that, because right now nights are a little tricky, but I think that's going to change soon anyway. So maybe nights will get a lot easier. Yeah, I'll just have to think on it. For right now, I'm thinking it'll just be mornings this coming weekend, and then I'll have to rethink it later. But maybe not. Maybe I will jump straight to nights. I just have to think on that. Let's see. So what else? Okay, as I mentioned, as I've been mentioning, the website, my website is up. Obviously, if anyone is going to go do any Amazon shopping, drop by there, maybe click through a link, and I get a little bit of purchases made through that path. If mine is the most recently clicked link, that is. That's how they work their cookies, and it's kind of annoying, but it is a thing. Let's see. I have recommendations on there right now for some action cameras, and somewhere in the next few days, I'm going to actually be adding a couple of more articles that are recommendations for other things. So hopefully that'll be adding a little bit more. Plus, I have a couple of editorials that that are in the works and planned and stuff like that. I do not have them posted yet, but I am going to be working on some reviews that are also going to be going up on the site. You will be finding out a great deal more about those in the near future. So yeah, that site is live. It's codytoombs.com. Check it out if you so choose. Otherwise, also huge thanks as always to supporters of the channel: Alyssa, David, Diablo, Carson, and Austin. Y'all are awesome. I love you people. And if anyone would like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And obviously, any little bit helps. And is always welcome. And as always, just huge thanks to everyone for coming by and hanging out in the chat, because honestly, like, this show would not be half as fun or interesting if there wasn't somebody talking with me during the show. You guys are part of the conversation. So with that though, my voice is about as cooked as it's gonna be. I'm going to go get some ice cream to soothe the savage beast. So with that, thank you all for coming by, hanging out, and I will catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.